I wanted to ask you a bit about the meta going into playoffs. Obviously 12.14 you're playing right now, 12.15 incoming. But I guess the big change was all these sustained nerfs to the early game. How does laning phase feel now compared to before 12.14 in terms of like how volatile is it? Like how harder is it to lane?
I think it feels like you get more advantages in like the first 5 levels before the first phase, basically. Because before you had so much health that everyone can just base at any time. But yeah, now you can actually fight a lot.
Being a good laner has a little bit more emphasis on it. You can't really afford to get chunked too much because the sustain is way lower, right?
I feel like, yeah, the Scorch buff, Silent Impact buff, you know, all these like small things. When I check the damage dealt, like in the first 10 minutes, it's like it amounts to a huge amount, you know.
Laning is a lot harder now with second wind being nerfed, potions being nerfed, pretty much everything being nerfed for top.
Every like carry top lane is kind of nerfed except Gwen, and most of the time she's out. So yeah, I feel like top lane meta is right now like Sejuani, Ornn, trade, perma.
We've seen around the world a bit of Jace versus Gwen, and now with potions being nerfed, refillable being nerfed, and all of this, top lane feels a lot more volatile. I don't know. The patch was good, I feel like, but the unintended consequences is that the tanks are back, and I think that's not really great for top. It doesn't really hit what they wanted to do with top, because before the nerfs to sustain an early game, we had a lot of GP in our Gwen, and I felt like top lane was a bit more explosive, but at the same time it's kind of getting boring because everything was the same. So I guess they're spicing it up, so it's kind of nice, I guess.
Currently, jungle meta is pretty fun. I like playing things like Pantheon, things like Jarvan, things that are basically building bruisers, just bruisers. I can name them bruisers. You can play very aggressively, you can take a lot of fights early.
The carry junglers are kind of falling out of favor for champs like Jarvan and Vi that I think in this meta are very blind pickable because Jarvan does very well into most meta AD carries, and that's kind of what you want out of Jarvan. You can ult AD carry with no flash.
You know, a lot of these hyper carries just don't run from you because they have only flash. Vi can follow a flash, Jarvan can force a flash and still ult you, so I do think this is why these junglers are popping up more. Objectives did get buffed as well. If you get Herald's Drakes, you get rewarded more. Either you get more gold from Herald or you get better stats from Drake. Of course, Drakes are also harder to kill. But I actually like the changes, and I think it's a lot of fun.
I really like the changes because it just enforces you to play even more macro, even more objective-oriented, even more team play-oriented. Every single Drake counts, I think.
Even like the small dragons, it's like huge how much they give. Like if you get Ocean Drake, first Drake in top lane, you feel like you can't lose lane. It's really strong.
Right now, still Herald is probably a bit better since they buffed Herald as well.
It's completely viable now to just like drop bot, run to Herald, get Herald, which somehow gives 200 local gold, and it gives you a lot of plates. So it is quite good if you know how to swap and play for it, and can actually save you like in losing lane a lot of times. So Herald extremely important now.
Before the dragon changes, I think Herald was undisputed better than first Drake, but I think now, especially with top lane meta being a lot of tanks, Herald has lost a lot of his value, so I think you can see more fights over early Drakes, and I think the team that takes early Drake is actually generally happier than the team that takes Herald these days. So
the Drake changes make it so that I think after the second Drake you can flank a bit easier.
Because before it felt like if you're not there, then someone's burning the Drake because it dies in like 10 seconds. But now it actually feels like
kind of like the same you play on Nash, where you don't really rush the Nash, but you want to turn, you want to kill people. And I feel like this is how people take the Drakes as well, where they want to turn, they want to kill. I actually like the change a lot because I feel like it rewards being smarter on the map and not necessarily committing all your resources to rush the Drake. At the same time though, I also like the changes with Drakes being stronger. It does make the game more snowbally, as early game objectives right now are like just snowballing into oblivion, the Herald and Drakes.
I think it's pretty nice for tops. Tops feel, actually now that I think about it, a bit more impactful because of this.
There's more champions that can just say, okay, I'm gonna give a wave, I'm gonna roam to Drake, and then we'll see what happens. There's also Shen has risen in solo queue at least. So far, I haven't seen it much in pro play, but Shen is a very interesting champion because he's obviously very, very strong at dragon fights because he can just be at 2 places in the same time.
I feel like Shen is an okay champion. I feel like mostly the problem with Shen is that there are not really a lot of dive champions being played in EU. Shen doesn't really have a lot of good matchups right now, I think. With a bit of time, people are going to experiment more and more because, for example, if Renekton starts becoming a considered OP pick in draft, then the whole meta is going to start evolving around Renekton, while right now the meta is around Ornn and Gwen, I feel like. So that's usually when we will see more more adaptations and more random counter picks coming out. I feel like Cannon is a bit of a bait. I don't think it's as strong as LPL is making it look like, because what usually happens is that Cannon doesn't really have someone on mid lane that can be like an AD champion like Jace, Yasuo, Yone or something like that. And it makes it really, really easy for enemies to itemize, Merc Threads, Force of Nature and stuff like this, and then your value goes down dramatically.
But yeah, basically in Europe it's a lot of tanks right now, and a lot of front to back comps. It also supports all the hyper carries played in the bot lane, like Aphelios, like the Sivir, like the Twitch, like the Zeri. And then, mid lane is like more of a CC lane, I feel like right now, either Assassin or CC. Jungle is a bruiser, so I feel like every game draft is very, very similar. It's just a bit different champs being played.
The meta will be a bit more mages for playoffs, because I think if you're a good lane player with mages, you can start getting significant leads in lane compared to before.
Yeah, I think like Azir has really strong early game and laning phase, so he's stronger now than before because enemy just doesn't have enough potions. I think the meta is just like basically the same as before, just the champions that have stronger lane are a bit stronger, but that's basically it.
And I think the whole meta is kind of drafted around this, where people are picking like tank into tank now to try and match the front line. And yeah, I think we're in a pretty teamfight heavy meta right now.
It feels hard to win if you're getting outscaled in the teamfight department, right?
Like, I don't think we're going to see as many dive-coms as we have seen. I think we're going to see like more frontline with ranged mid, ranged AD, and just play front to back. Top right now, jungle right now is mostly tanks, and that naturally promotes hyper carries in the bot lane and enchanters. So I think we're going to see a fair share of them in the playoffs.